Hi everyone, my name is Stefan Schuster and welcome to the Journey Running Podcast. For today's episode, which will be episode 9 of the Journey Running Podcast, we'll be having on one of my good friends, Amanda Klebba, who in just a moment is going to talk to us about her journey as an ultrarunner and particularly about her journey from running her first 50K to her first 100 miler within just 1 year time frame. In this episode, we're also going to talk to Amanda about her transition from being a marathon runner to a trail runner. We're going to talk about a lot of the races that she's run over the last year and a half or so. And then also we're going to talk about the importance of being open to new experiences, which is something that some great advice that Amanda has for the audience. But without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy the episode. And here is Amanda Klebba. For real though, is your heart pounding?
Oh yeah, it is pounding.
Are you nervous?
Yeah.
That I got recorded.
Oh no.
Who is Amanda Klebba?
I don't even know who I am.
Well, welcome to the show, Amanda. It's really great to finally have you on the Journey Running Podcast. This is going to come out as episode 9. And what are you, we had 3 interviews, I think, so far. So you'll be the 4th person to be welcome onto the show here. And yeah, really happy to have you. Probably a little bit overdue since I started the podcast in September. I still need to get you, James, and Lizzie all on here. But nonetheless, I'm going to stop talking. I want to give you a moment to introduce yourself to everybody and tell the world a little bit about who is Amanda Klebba, how did you get into running in general, and how did you get into ultra running?
Thank you. Well, hello to everyone who is listening to this wonderful podcast. I will try not to bore you with my stories and proverbs of things. But anyway, like you said, my name is Amanda Klebba. A little bit about me, man. Talking about myself is not a strong suit, I have to say. But I think some good ways to describe myself is I've always been pretty active. I've loved sports. I've loved being outdoors. And I found my way out to Colorado and really got into trail running after I got out here. I really enjoyed running kind of throughout growing up, doing sports. And then kind of as I went to a larger college at Michigan State, not playing sports kind of translated into running. And then moving out to Colorado, that running then translated into trail running. So that's a little bit about me. Another important fact about me, though, is I have a very big orange floofer named Garfield. He's very handsome, so I can't not mention him on this podcast.
Garf is a cute cat. He really does look like Garfield. So what kind of running were you doing when you were back in your high school days and in college? Were you doing like cross-country track in high school, and then were you doing like marathons in college, or what kind of running was that like?
So I did travel soccer all throughout. I think I started in preschool. So I think that's kind of where my joy of running came from, because I don't even know if I necessarily even like soccer, but I like the concept of just running and being outside. And that kind of happened through the sport of soccer. And then I did do track in high school and also in grade school. But then in college, like I mentioned, I didn't really do any sports besides like a few IM sports because I went to Michigan State and I'm no D1 athlete. But I did kind of get into just running by myself and like running with friends. So just going out on like small runs to start with. And then I think kind of towards my senior year that progressed to longer runs. Like I'd go out for like 6 to 8 to 10, 12 mile runs. And I think that like the joy and the freshness of the air kind of just got into my bloodstream. And I was like, I really like doing this.
So what was your when did you do your first marathon, and what marathon was it?
So my first marathon, I didn't really do a lot of races growing up, honestly. My first marathon was the Bayshore Marathon, and I did it actually the summer after I graduated college. I guess the only race that I did do during college was I did a half marathon actually in Colorado. I think it was called the Dog Days half marathon. It was in Louisville, Colorado.
Yeah, you interned out here in college, you said.
I did. That was a good time.
Yeah, can we take a moment? I need to tell everyone who's going to listen to this who doesn't know who you are that Amanda was a packaging science major. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because every time that I think somebody finds out that you were a packaging major is like, that's a major?
Yeah, people think I work for UPS or like just drop boxes places. I guess I didn't mention that about me. That probably would have been important, actually, what I do. But yes, I work as a packaging engineer. Right now, I'm working on packaging men's grooming products. If you need body washes, shampoos, deodorants, I got like 12 sticks of deodorants right now. So basically, it's just like if you go to the store and you buy something on the shelf, it comes in a package. So somebody's got to put it in the package. So that's kind of my job.
This is a great start. Okay, let's go back to running. Okay. I don't know what else to ask. Oh yeah, I remember you had all this Kraft mac and cheese.
Oh, I did. Yes. I had a laundry basket full of mac and cheese sitting in my car when I was in Chicago, actually working for Kraft Heinz.
Because you were like designing the packaging for like the Canadian mac and cheese or something,
I
right?
was. We were doing a whole like brand refresh and everything like that. And I would have it in the back of my car. And I think it was during COVID actually. And a few of my friends would come by my car and just come and pick up mac and cheese. So it was kind of like a weird like dealer of mac and cheese out of my car in Chicago.
Amazing. Yeah, and so you were living in Chicago for a while. You were doing a lot of road running out there, especially during like COVID and all that fun stuff. And then you ended up moving out to Denver. And I remember I was trying to be the devil on your shoulder telling you to move from roads to trails.
Yes.
And you finally did. I was wondering if you could tell everyone a little bit about what that process was like, because there's definitely a lot of people out there who are road runners, and I think the idea of running an ultra intrigues them, but they maybe just don't have that friend who's already an ultra runner giving them that nudge, or maybe they're just afraid for whatever reasons that extra 5 miles seems so far, or they're afraid of like thinking themselves, I don't know how to navigate. I mean, what would you tell those kind of runners who are looking to make that transition, and what was your transition like?
I think like one of the biggest things to think about when you're transitioning from road to trail is like, don't look at your pace. Like, it doesn't necessarily matter. I think that was kind of like a big thing. Like when I was more road running and running on like cement a lot, I was really focused on pace. I'm like, oh, like I got to stick to like a certain pace. Cause like a lot of road running is defined by speed. Whereas I think like the cool thing and the interesting thing about trail running is it's more about the adventure and the journey that you take and kind of like being with people out on the trails. So I think like kind of taking a step back and looking at like, why are you out there running? Is it more for the joy of it? And that's kind of what trail running embraces. So that's what I like about trail running more than road running. And I hate the cement now. So I actually did the Chicago Marathon, and I did that after being out in Colorado for, I think it was like a year and a half. And I went back and I did that, and oh my goodness, a painful experience with cement is. I don't think I can ever run a marathon again. I mean, maybe one day. But yeah, looking back, it's the greatest decision I made.
And what was your first 50K, and what was that experience like?
So my first 50K was, it was called Endure 12 hour. So I guess it wasn't like categorized as a 50K, but I made sure, I was like, I want to go out there and I'm going to do an ultra, which I like made that a goal in and of itself. So that was the race I did, which was a cool, interesting race because you basically have these tiny balls that define your fate in terms of what loops you're going to run. So you stick your hand in the bucket and you pull out a color ball, and that color ball kind of relates to a loop that you're going to run. And then you go run that loop and come back and you draw another ball, and you do that for 12 hours or as long as you want. I think I stopped around 9 hours maybe. I don't remember when I stopped, but somewhere. I didn't go the whole 12 hours. I was done. I was like, my knee was kind of hurting. I was like, I did the ultra, I'm out. So, but it was a fun experience.
Yeah, it was a fun race. I remember you pull out like the color balls, and that tells you like if you pull red, that's like the 9 mile loop. If you pull purple, it's like a 7. I can't remember what the numbers were.
Purple and red were both 9. I think they were the same distance, but red had more vert and purple was a little more gradual and was a lollipop. And I liked red and purple the best. And then the blue and the green and the yellow were like shorter ones. And like those ones I'm glad I didn't pull a lot of because I think I would not have liked it as much if I got those ones.
No guy wants blue balls.
I think I only had one blue ball.
But there was one ball that if you pulled a black ball, you had to do a challenge.
Oh, yes, I got one of those.
I had to pick up like M&Ms and take them like 20 feet over to a little cup with chopsticks. And if you completed the challenge, then you got to pick you got like a free pass to pick what your next loop would be rather than having to pull out a ball. And if you did not complete the black ball challenge, then you had to, I think you took like a time forfeiture or something.
Yeah. Yeah, you did. It was something along the line. I don't know. I got one and I had to draw like a self-portrait of some guys that were sitting in chairs. It was honestly really fun.
Yeah, fun event.
And then I was able, I don't really know what, I could probably draw stick figures and they would have been okay with it. I don't really know what the standard was. I just had to draw something. And then I got to pick a ball. And I either chose red or purple. I chose purple because James wanted to run purple with me. So I chose purple.
There you go.
Yep.
And what was, do you remember what your final mileage was for that day?
I think I was around 33 miles based on like, because I drew the black ball and I decided to do purple and that was my last loop of the whole thing. I think that kind of ended around 33-ish miles.
Cool. And so I was wondering, since that was your first ultra was a timed event is what they're called. And these timed events, for those who are unaware, they can take place in 3 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, or greater increments of time, and you just run as far or as much as you want within those time frames. For somebody who's looking at running their first ultra, do you think that a timed event was would be a good recommendation, or would you tell people to run more like a set distance, like a 50K? Do you think it depends on the person, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think it kind of depends on the person, and also I think it was helpful for me because I kind of got to make it what I wanted to make it. But I think like if you're more motivated by having something established, like a goal already established for you, like you're going to run a 50K. And if that's like kind of the way your mind processes things, and then that would be better to do that type of race. But if you kind of take a look at the timed race and set your own, I guess, goals for yourself, and it doesn't even have to be a certain mileage. It can be like, I don't know, like not tie my shoe while I'm out there. I tend to tie my shoes a lot. I'm in races. So it kind of just depends on your style and how you like to run things. But I think it's a great opportunity if you're trying to get into running and just kind of trying to test to see how far can I run. If that's your goal, then I think it's a really good choice to do because you're a winner no matter what you do, honestly. So yeah. You just got to go out there.
You get to make your own. You get to define what success is for yourself and go out there and do whatever you feel like.
Yes, exactly.
Like you can run for 4 hours, sleep for 4 hours, and then run another 4 hours at a timed event, hypothetically.
Yeah, you could.
And you could get an ultra in there too, and it's considered an ultra. So
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I signed my dad up for his first 50K for Christmas, and I signed him up for what's it called, Cuyahoga Falls 50 or something in New York, because he lives in New Jersey. That's how he gets to hop into his first ultra, but people
what was
don't.
His reaction to that?
At first, he was like, "Oh my gosh," and he was like, "I knew you were going to do this because you've been saying it for a few years that you were going to do this to me. Just sign me up for a race." But he did tell me that he's happy that he has a big goal on his calendar for next year, and he's also looking at running New York. Granted, I think he's 61 now.
Oh, that's impressive.
So
honestly, sometimes you just need that push. Like you need that person to tell you, you should try to do it. You should take that effort. You might fail, but at least you tried. And if you don't push yourself, you're never gonna see what your limit is.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing I was gonna say was people don't have to make their first ultra or their first trail race an ultra.
True.
They can sign up for there are a lot of shorter events out there on the trails to help show them the ropes if they're still intimidated.
Yeah, there was, I think at the same race, there was a half marathon too, so you could have chose that.
Yeah.
But honestly, you can sign up for the 12-hour and run a half marathon too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. You can run 1 mile and say, that was it for me for the day.
That is a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the hourly, you probably get a better bang for your buck.
You do, yeah, you do.
So speaking of intimidation, you're somebody who is very much not intimidated by ultras because you ran your first 50K in, I believe it was May of 2021.
Correct.
And then only 2 months later, you ran your first 100K. And you skipped over the 50-mile distance. You were like, fuck that. I'm going to go double my furthest run ever, and I'm going to go run 100K. I was wondering, what was your thought process behind that? Just like, what was your thought process behind that? And I was going to ask why Never Summer. I think I just told you, like, that was my first 100K also, and that ended up being yours. But
I think, like, I asked you, and I was talking to you for a bit, and I'm like, how was, like, Never Summer? What was great about it? And you said it was one of the most beautiful courses you've ever run. And I'm like, you know, it's beautiful. It sounds like a good challenge. Honestly, taking a step back, I don't really know what was going through my mind at the time. Like, I have never really thought about the fact that I took that big of a jump. I just thought, like, I had more I could do. I've been running a lot, and I just like running in general. And I was like, you know what, might as well give it a chance. He said it's beautiful, so
yeah. It's an awesome course.
I didn't really have much going through my mind, honestly. I don't really know why I did that. It wasn't probably my smartest choice, but, you know, I'm glad I did it because then it kind of got me going and signed up for more things. And
so for background information, Never Summer 100K is a rugged mountain 100 in, I think it starts in Gould, Colorado, that has a population of like 10 people. Nobody ever goes up to that area of Colorado. I'm spoiling the secret now, damn it. Nobody ever goes up to, it's called the Never Summer Range, and I think it's the Medicine Bows are over there too, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I think the Never Summers are south and Medicine is north. And
it's just super pretty is all I know.
Yeah, either way. There's no 14ers over there, so nobody goes there. I don't even know. There's probably some 13ers, I would think. Anyways, nobody goes there because there's no 14ers. So they can't put on Instagram that they did a 14er. So it's really quiet over there. And because of that, there's all these trails that are very pristine and untouched and rugged. And it's a really beautiful course up in the mountains. You go up, I think you go up to like 12,000 feet-ish.
I think it is. I had a weird experience there though, because I had a rerouted course because the year I did it, there was huge floods in Colorado. So I actually need to go back, and I want to go back. It's a race that I want to do again, and do like the full course, obviously. Yeah,
I was going to ask you about that because mentally, like this happens all the time in ultra running where, you know, you're going to a race, and in your case there was flooding, so the emergency personnel in like the Fort Collins area had to go down to Poudre River, if I remember correctly.
Canyon, yeah.
Because of forecasted rain that weekend. So the course got rerouted because in the event that something happened to people that weekend, the race staff put on by NAR runners, the races put on by, they rerouted the course because they were like, we can't afford something to happen if people are above tree line. But this happens all the time in ultra running, whether it's for storms or like a snowstorm or
hail, Mogollon.
Hail, like Mogollon, flooding. Like, there's always reasons that courses are rerouted. I think the only race that I've done that's gotten rerouted was Moab because there was forecasted snow. But my point is that's like got to be, for a lot of people, even like, I think for everyone, it's mentally challenging when you're preparing for, even if it's, I know 2 months leading up to 100K is not super long for an ultra.
Yeah.
But like when you're mentally preparing for a race, when you're training for like 2 months, 6 months, a year for something, and all of a sudden there's a course reroute, that's got to be mentally challenging. So I'm wondering, like, how did you overcome that? And yeah, what's your advice for other people who are inevitably going to experience that at some point in their ultra running career if they're in the sport long enough?
Yeah, I was kind of worried when we were driving up to the race that it might not even happen. I mean, granted, a lot of people came in from out of town, so I didn't think it was going to be canceled fully, but I kind of didn't really know what to expect. But that being said, I was excited for the experience anyway. It was in an area, honestly, I haven't been into, Colorado. Like you were mentioning, it's very off the grid. So honestly, regardless of the course change, like it was beautiful and I was super excited to do it, but it kind of provided some like uncertainty because I didn't obviously know like what that was going to change. Like, how is that going to affect aid stations? Like, is it going to be a longer distance in between aid stations? Like, do I need more water? There's a lot of questions that you don't know. Good thing though that I feel like they provided a lot of good information before the race to kind of get us ready, and like providing a new map of how the course would look and everything like that. So we were well prepared in that aspect. But it was kind of a scary experience. Also, too, I thought the weather was going to be really bad, like throughout the race itself. They were predicting a lot of rain, a lot of wind, but we really lucked out. It wasn't too bad in terms of rain and everything. It was just kind of a gray day. But things could be worse, I have to say. It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, I was up there pacing you, and all day there were just these ominous gray clouds, and you're like, it's gonna storm, and it like somehow never really did.
I know. I put my rain jacket on, I think once when I was going up to what's that? I forgot that lake. You go up and you go back down.
Lake?
Yeah, I think I was going up there, and I put on my bright yellow rain jacket, and I ended up matching people at the top of the aid station who were also wearing the aid jacket of yellow, which I thought was kind of cool. But that was the only time that I actually put on my rain jacket, I was surprised. I thought I was going to be in my rain jacket the whole day.
It's a cool course. What was your favorite part?
I don't know. There were so many cool parts. I think like having I think it was also a different experience than my first ultra, because my first ultra was a timed event, so you came back to the same aid station, whereas it was more of like a journey throughout the mountains in terms of like coming to different aid stations, kind of meshing with the different people to determine on your pace, and kind of running into meeting new faces along the way. So obviously the sights were beautiful, but I feel like just kind of getting that more community experience into ultra running was kind of my favorite part of it.
Nice. That's awesome.
Oh, you should watch the YouTube video that Steph has out of me. So that was my first time trying to videotape a race. And
there was one. Yeah. So there is that video up on YouTube. It's on the Journey Running channel. Actually, I told Amanda if she used my GoPro, then it goes on my channel.
Yeah, I'm on the channel.
Yeah, hashtag getting more views. No,
I actually almost I swear every time I pull out the camera, I almost fell. So you'll probably see at every clip, oh no. And then I try to cross this river crossing, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to have to get wet in this. And I look, and I'm about to step in the water, and all of a sudden I look to my right, and there's a bridge over there. So that's kind of a funny clip. So you should definitely tune in, because I'm kind of an idiot in it. But it's pretty fun.
And you also had some knee pain at the end of that race. How did you overcome that? Because you still had 15 miles to go when I started pacing you, and you were about to throw in the towel.
I think
what did James you called James at mile 40, or I don't want to put the story in your mouth, but what was that story, and what did he tell you to keep going?
So that was at mile 50, I think. 45, because I had to get back to you at 50. Mm-hmm. And so I had another 5 miles to get back to you to when I could get you as a pacer. So I was at the 10, and I was actually considering dropping. I think it was more of a IT band knee tightness type thing. I don't think it was actually related to my knee. I had no clue at the time. I'm like, oh no, my leg is destroyed forever. I'm going to die. That was kind of the thought process in my mind. But it wasn't that. It just was a tight IT thing. That now I've actually learned you can massage it out pretty well, and you can still race on it pretty well if it happens again. I learned that at Mogollon.
During a race?
Yeah, it was happening to me a little bit at Mogollon, and some lady took her finger and pushed it into my leg and made me bend my leg back and forth.
Right below your knee there?
Right below my knee, and I went back and forth like this, and it kind of just relieved the pain.
That's good to know.
Yeah, it was very helpful. But anyway, I was sitting in the aid station tent. I was talking to the medic people, and I was like, I'm not sure if I can do it. I'm in a lot of pain. So I called Lizzie and James. I think they were together.
I don't know how you had cell service there.
Oh, I don't know. Thank you, Verizon. Shout out Verizon. And I called them, and they're like, "You can do it, Amanda." I don't actually even remember the full conversation, but they were just very uplifting and promising. I think they sent. Did I have Garf for that? I did have Garf for that time. I think they sent some Garf and Annie pictures. Got me motivated and going. Honestly, too, another thing was I wasn't going to get driven out of that aid station for multiple hours after that. So I was kind of either I hobble to go find Steph 5 miles later, and maybe he'll give me motivation to go, or I sit here for a while and wait for a car to come out. I had a lot of time in terms of cutoffs and everything like that. So I kind of got like the joy and inspiration and motivation from my friends to continue going. And I think they deep down knew once I got to you, then you weren't going to let me stop, which was very, very true. But honestly, I kind of walked along the path, and I walked with somebody for a while, actually, which was kind of nice. And then I got to see you, and then we continued on from there.
Yeah. And there are like these times in my ultra running career where I look back and I'm like, that was like a defining moment. Did you feel like continuing when you felt like you couldn't for a while? Was that like a moment like that for you, or do you not look at that race that way?
I would say yes. I think assessing the risk and understanding if it's worth going on is like a valuable moment. Because obviously, like, for me, continuing a race is not important if it's gonna like cause like injuries that are like longer than like a reasonable time to like heal, or like a typical recovery period after a race. For me, that's not worth continuing. It puts you at danger, puts the race at danger, and everything like that. So I think like kind of understanding your limits and understanding like what is worth it, what's not worth it, and like things, it's gonna hurt. Like any race you do that's that long is gonna hurt. So kind of understanding what you can bear and how far you can push it, I think is important. I took away from that race.
Yeah, that's good. And then 2 months later, you went back and ran another 100K.
I did.
Yeah,
wow.
You went back and ran.
I never really thought about this whole progress of races, honestly, because I did Sangre 100K.
Yeah, and that was also a course I know because that was my first 100-miler.
Yeah.
And you went to Sangre, but this time you didn't have any knee pain. You did really well. You ran like a 16-hour 100K, and I feel like that was the performance that really foreshadowed some of the success that we'll talk about some other races in a moment, but let's stick on Sangre. But like that race, I think, foreshadowed a lot of the success you would have in the future. So like, what did you do differently between Never Summer and Sangre, which is in July and then September, to lead up to that, to allow you to have that success at Sangre? And then what was your experience at Sangre like?
So honestly, I was very nervous going into Sangre. Like the one thing I didn't want to happen was the whole like pain to flare up under my knee. So I think one thing that I did at Sangre that kind of helped that not happen is I took the down running, like, which is kind of opposite of what people do, the downhill running very easy and not like busting downhill, because that could aggravate it. But I also started doing a lot more PT, which I think has now translated and helped a lot with me now, because I'm able to bomb down downhills a lot faster and not have that knee pain flare-ups. I did a lot of that in Mogollon. But for Sangre, I think one of the biggest goals for me was to kind of finish strong, because obviously I finished Never Summer, and I finished strong in the aspect of what I could, but I really wanted to make sure like that last push down Music Pass, I wanted to be able to run it down. Didn't want to be able to like hobbling it down, like barely able to move. So that was kind of one of my big goals. Honestly, probably my only goal, obviously, besides finishing. I didn't really have like a huge time thing on that one. I was more of the aspect of kind of improving some of the things that I didn't do so well in Never Summer. So yes, I very slowly ran downhills and then ran the uphills, which is, I know, very opposite of what people typically do.
Yeah, especially at Sangre, when you start off with like a 2,500 foot climb, and then you have to go down that, and then you have to go up it again at the end.
Yeah.
And then down it at the end. So you wanted to make sure you were like injury free at those points.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to make sure that I had like the best luck going into that. I think it's like 3 or 4 miles downhill at the end. But yeah, I know that's kind of opposite. You typically walk the up. I mean, I didn't run up Music Pass. I walked up like.
I was gonna say, you run up Music Pass, you have my respect.
No, I didn't run. I mean, like if it's like a gradual up, I would run up it, but not like obviously how many. That's a lot of vert. I don't even remember how much that was.
Yeah, the Rainbow Trail is beautiful, and I love
that course. Honestly, if you have the chance to do that course, I highly suggest it. It's very beautiful. It's a very runnable course too, I do have to say. The Rainbow Trail is pretty non-technical. no like super steep climbs. Like I feel like all of it was fairly runnable. So I do suggest.
Yeah, I remember there's that 1 9 mile section in the middle of the trail.
Oh yeah.
It's always longer on the way back towards the main aid station.
I thought like I knew I wasn't lost, but I thought I was lost because it was lasting forever. I guess the only part that was kind of technical on those, which I thought was technical at the time, now I don't think it's as technical because I've done more technical courses, was like the down chutes into the aid stations. Those I walked down because they were like
those
downhill.
were rocky, yeah.
Yeah, they were rocky and they were downhill. So I walked those down. I probably lost a good amount of time on those. But that was my strategy, was just make sure to not destroy your IT band knee. I didn't even really know what the issue was, honestly, on the downs. I just knew I was having like a lot of pain doing really steep powered downhills.
You seem to fix the IT issue though this year. So now as we fast forward into, I know we're recording this on Monday, January 9th, 2023 now.
Oh boy.
But as you went from 2021 to 2022, I don't think you had any real knee or IT issues. So you were able to really get past that, and that made you into a much stronger runner last year.
Yeah, highly suggest doing PT exercises. They really do help. They're very important. You honestly can't run long distances without doing some type of strength or like physical training activities for your legs. So I think that has really helped in that aspect. Also, just too, like more time on my feet, more longer days in the mountains has really helped. But yeah, no, I haven't had severe issues really since that first few races. I had a little bit of flare up at Mogollon, but I was able to kind of like, that wasn't my big issue at Mogollon. I was able to push into like the side of my knee and then like move it back and forth, and it just kind of loosened up and it was fine.
Yeah. Before we talk about Mogollon though, I'm going to do this linearly.
Okay.
Because I still think it's really impressive that you ran your first 50K in May of 2021, and then you ran your first 100-miler in April of 2022. So that means within less than a 12-month span, you went from 50K to 100 miles, which is a really quick and cool accomplishment. I was wondering, what was your first 100-mile experience like?
So thinking back about all these races, I feel like I jumped to a distance. I have a very like long, drawn out, like painful first race of that distance, and then I improve upon that and like gain things in the next distance. Like for example, my first 100-miler was Zion 100-miler. It was a pretty flat course for the most part. It was sneaky in terms of like, I thought it was gonna be super, super flat, but like there was some ups and downs, but overall it wasn't too bad.
It was a hot day.
Oh my goodness, it was so hot. I think it was like close to 90 degrees, and coming out of the winter time, was used to running like in 30, 20, like really cold temperatures on snowy trails, translating that into the desert, which slick rock did not translate very well. But my experience was, I would say, good for the most part. I had a lot of pain and dehydration the last like 10 miles. Just for perspective here, at the first 69 miles of the race, I ran it in 18 hours. I have that picture of it. I can't remember. It was 18 or 19 hours, something like pretty well, I would say. And then I finished in 35 hours. So you can see what happened the last half of the race. I was very slowly moving.
Third, yeah.
Yeah, I was really slowly moving. I felt like I was crawling.
Yeah, so you found yourself at mile. So I ran the race also, and you ran it. And we came from Denver, where it was like a cold winter, all winter, and then we hit like the only like 90-degree day in Zion in April, out of like that whole week or like few week span or something. So we got pretty unlucky when we were running it there. And then so you got to mile 69 and you got up that big climb, and then that's at mile right over, it's like mile 68 or something.
Yeah.
And then
because you come back into that aid station where you can get your first pacer at mile 70.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's nighttime at this point, but then the sun rises again and you get dehydrated at mile 90.
Yeah.
And you were at the aid station there for, how long was it again?
I got into mile 90, and I hit the aid station, and I was cold. Like, I was super cold, and by this time, like you said, the sun rose, so it was a cold night. It was a cold night, but by the time I was like still cold, I think it had to have been like 70s or 80s out, and I was wearing like a big like puffy jacket, pants, my running vest and everything. So I got to that aid station, and I probably looked like death. I don't even know. I felt like death. And the lady was like, I think you need to sit down for a bit. So I laid on a cot. I drank some ramen, tried to get some fluids in me. Cause there was like a loop that you did, and it felt like you were meandering forever and like going in circles. And I ran out of water probably with 3 miles left to that. So that didn't obviously translate well. So I tried to get some fluids in.
It was like this long loop from mile like low 80s to like 90 or something.
And it just felt like it was like a 20-mile section. I don't know. It just felt like you were going in circles, and like every turn you take, like you felt like you were just there a few minutes ago. So that was not ideal, obviously.
Dude, I did that section at night, and I was like falling asleep because at that point in time, I hadn't really figured out how to dial in caffeine during races. I'll talk about nutrition more in a future episode, but I was like falling asleep at like from 3 to 5 a.m. on that section, and it just felt like it was going on for forever.
Yeah, my caffeine strategy was not great at that race either. And also, I think another thing that I learned was the importance of salt. I don't think obviously like certain foods have salt in them in general, but something that I did for Mogollon that I think helped, and I did for Indian Creek, is I was taking in just straight up salt. Like, I would literally pour salt on watermelon, and people would be like, are you going to eat that? And I'm like, yeah. So that I eat the whole chunk of watermelon with salt on it. So I think like making sure you get salt and caffeine and like hydration is really, really important. I learned that obviously in Zion, because I was struggling with that for the last 10 miles felt like 100-mile in itself. Like, I was crawling, and my foot, I had like this weird pain on the outside of my foot. I've had a lot of shoe and foot issues throughout my races. So definitely finding a good pair of shoes is important, I would say. But that was another thing. Like, I was dehydrated. I was having issues walking on my feet because my outside of my foot was hurting. So I was in bad shape towards the end of that one.
So yeah, here's the picture for people. I just want to paint this because it was pretty bad. I remember
it was bad.
You called me and James, who were at the finish line, and
I think it was 8 miles left, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do this, guys.
I know you were like your feet were in pain. You were like cold, even though it was like 80 degrees out. Because now we're like talking 30 hours into the race, so it's like around noon again.
Yeah.
On the second day, and dehydrated, cold somehow, and unsure of like whether or not you're going to be able to finish this race.
And blisters! Like I forgot about the blisters.
Yeah, the blisters.
I was popping blisters on my foot. I think since mile like 50, I was getting blisters popped on my foot. So at every aid station I got into, I had blisters popped on my foot. So I had blisters all underneath the bottom of my toes, on the bottom of my feet. My feet were in really bad shape.
So all this to say, like, anyone who's listening is like, why would I want to be in that situation? What made you want to continue?
I think granted, I was at mile 92 when I was really thinking about stopping, and I'm like, this is pathetic, Amanda. You really just got to push on at this point. But honestly, just like pushing myself and like knowing that I could finish. Like, I knew I set myself out there, like knowing that like my goal was to finish. I didn't really have a goal time. Like, it was my first 100-miler. I just wanted to be out there finish. So I think for me, that was kind of a pivotal moment because it kind of set myself up for, if I can finish this, then I can move on and try out different strategies and do different things. So I think it kind of just like pushed me farther than I thought I was capable of doing. Like, similar thing of Never Summer. But I think almost in a worse aspect, because Never Summer, I was fine in terms of nutrition. Like, I was super, super happy. I think I didn't have that same outlook at the end of Zion, but I think it was more of just the challenge and the push, and like the support that I had out there too was like super helpful. Having support at races is honestly, I think, a game changer, because you don't feel like you're out there by yourself at that point.
Yeah, it's true. I did Zion that was my first race running without a pacer, and it's definitely a lot easier to run with one.
Oh, yeah.
To have somebody just like help you at the aid stations. Like, you can just having the conversations when you're on the trail to hopefully stay awake a little more.
Or remind you to like eat like every 3 miles or something like that.
Just somebody to help you when you're on autopilot, like tell you what to do instead of, or like remind you of things rather than like you always having to be doing those systems checks and holding yourself accountable for those when you're running alone too.
Yeah, someone who will listen to your crazy talks when you're just like randomly walking on the trail. I think I asked Lizzie, what's the time of day multiple times as I'm like, Lizzie, what's the time of day? She's like, why are you asking it in that format? Like what time is it? No, why are you asking what the time of day is?
Zion was a cool race. It was really
a cool
pretty
race
in a lot of ways, especially that beginning section when you're out on that overlook. That was really cool.
Oh, yeah. When the sun rose and you're on that overlook, that was really pretty. I do suggest, I mean, it's a good first 100-miler race in a lot of aspects because it's pretty flat in terms of 100-milers.
Yeah.
But you get a lot of diverse like terrain too because we got some slick rock at the beginning, like first 12 miles, and then it kind of went to more sand, deserty, and then you get some climbs, some water crossings. So that water crossing, make sure you have changed shoes for the water crossing. That was
for any water crossing.
Oh, any water crossing. But there was a big one at that race. It was also like super flooded, I think. I don't know if it was abnormally
it was like
large.
in that one area.
Yeah.
So I do have a question actually. So in your first year, you did that 50K, we'll call it a 50K.
Yeah.
I know it was 12-hour, but 50K for distance purposes. 200Ks. Forgot to mention you did a 50 in there at Dead Horse.
Oh yeah, I did do that one. That was a good one. That was a very successful race. I have to say, I took the power of the goo at that one. I felt like I was dying, and then I took a goo, and I had some random energy I didn't know I had possible. And I started passing people. I was like, wow. And then that's when I started using goos.
So you did a 50-miler after 200Ks. So you did hit the distance.
I did.
And then you ran a 100-miler. I remember before your first 100-miler, you made a comment that I never followed up with you on.
Oh, boy.
And that comment was, I wonder if I'm going to like 100Ks or 100-mile better.
Oh,
so my question now for you is, you've done like all the popular ultra distances. What's your favorite distance and why?
I like 100Ks and 100 miles. Like both of those two are for sure my favorite distances. I think this past year I didn't get to do 100K, which I missed doing that distance. This past year I did 200 milers and a 50 miler. I think I like 100 milers the best. But I think like in terms of doing 100 miles, it's important to focus on like fewer rather than quantity, and then kind of having shorter races to diversify in there. Obviously people do, like I know you do a lot of 100 milers in a year. And I did last year, I had 200 milers on the calendar, but I think like for me, I think having a one or two priorities in terms of 100 milers is important. And then kind of getting those other, shorter distance races in there. Cause honestly, all races are fun. So I would have to probably say 100 miler is my favorite, but 100K is shortly behind. Yeah,
I mean, one of the reasons that I think last year I'm going to mess up my own calendar. I know your calendar better than mine, apparently, as I prepare for this podcast. But I think I ran 300 milers in 2022 and didn't run anything else. But the reason that I did that is also because I'm in grad school and I'm kind of broke right now. So like, my lifetime goal is to run 100 milers, and so that's something I keep in mind as I like plan out a schedule. I would agree with you. It's important to try and like diversify things a little bit. Granted, if money's an issue, like you can always go on like your own journey runs.
That's true.
Do you like that little?
I like that.
It's the Journey Running podcast.
I like that. I even said in the beginning of when I was talking, it's all about the journey. So I thought you might have picked up on that. So guys, ultra running is a journey. So journey running, you know? Yeah.
I mean, like you can go do rim to rim at the Grand Canyon, 50 miles. I guess you have to pay for like the travel there, or any other 50 miler you're going to do. Like, I mean, you could walk outside and do 50
Cheeseman Park
miles.
50 miler.
I'm going to do that one day. 100 at Cheeseman. We're going to make it happen. Maybe this year.
You can only eat cheese, though.
Charcuterie boards for everyone.
Yeah.
The park next to that I live by in Denver is called Cheeseman Park. It's a 1.4 mile loop. I am looking at making a 100 miler there unofficially at some point. I think all of us will do something. We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
But all that to say that there's a lot of great distances out there. If you want to make a journey run, that's a great way to add a quote unquote race to your calendar without it being an official race, but you can still get a lot out of it. But you ran a very interesting race last summer. You ran in I'm going to mess up the name of it, the Burro World Championships.
Yes. Actually, I think you got it right. I actually don't even know the classification of it, but it was some burro race of sorts.
I know it's in Fair
World
Play
Championships
and
or something.
it's burro racing, and it's Fair Play, Colorado, burro racing, and I think it's the championship. Can you tell everyone what burro racing is, and how did you get into the World Championship?
So burro racing is essentially you run with a burro. So a burro is a donkey of sorts. Or not? It's not a donkey. I'm gonna mess that up. What is a burro? Now I'm blanking. I should have done my pre-research. I know it's like some type of.
So a burro, according to Google, is a small donkey used as a pack animal.
I was second guessing myself there. Okay, so yes, a burro is a donkey of sorts, and you run with it, and it's a challenging experience because you don't really have control over your race. It's really kind of up to your burro. Like if he doesn't want to move, you're not moving, and there's nothing you can do about it. So yeah, it was a fun experience. I would say it was challenging. My burro luckily was willing to move, which was good. I got lucky with my burro because a lot of people's burros also didn't want to move. So at least mine wanted to move, so that was good. But basically, you have to have strategy too. So I did like a pre burro race run to get to know my burro and kind of get to understand.
What was your burro's name?
Mine was Tucker.
Okay.
Yeah. Lizzie's was Pablo Picasso. Yeah, that's a good name for hers. But yeah, so you have to, if you run behind the donkey, the burro, that kind of insinuates to them that they need to move. When as you're on the side of them, they tend to run slower. And then the hard part is if you go downhill, you could lose your burro. So you want to make sure you're in front of your burro if you're going downhill, because burros see downhill, and if there's nothing in front of them, they start bolting. So, like, you could have to run a 4-minute mile to try to keep up with your burro going downhill.
Oh my
so,
gosh.
if you're going downhill, you want to be in front of your burro. And if you're on flat or uphill, you want to be behind your burro.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
How did you get in the World Championships for this?
So, you don't have to do anything. There's no qualifications or anything like that. Like, I'm not a pro by any means. I am not that great.
I just find it funny that you guys did your first race in the championship.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, I got into it because Lizzie, she, like, knew about it more than I did, and she had like the background in terms of like wanting to do it and everything like that, and I thought it was a fun experience and I wanted to try it out too. So that's kind of how I got into it. She knew about it, but yeah, there was no qualification. Honestly, I didn't even know there was other races. I only thought this one was like this was it. Like there was just this burro race, but no, there's other ones that exist out there.
It's a big event.
It
over
is.
there, yeah.
There was, I don't even know how many people were there. There were a lot of people.
Yeah,
a lot of poop.
I like swung through there like a year, maybe 2 years ago. I didn't realize it was like the Burro Festival racing going on, and like Fair Play was packed.
It's like one of Fair Play. Don't quote me on this because I don't know, but I think it's one of Fair Play's like biggest events.
I'm surprised South Park hasn't done an episode on Burro racing.
I know, because you technically
because South Park is like right
South. Park, I think, actually. I don't, that part I'm not positive
I think South Park's a part of Fair Play.
It is.
I have to do my research on that.
It's like right on like the west side of Fair Play, I guess you could say. I don't know. I don't know the dynamics of that. But
you would have thought the show would have taken that idea.
I know. Maybe they don't know.
I don't know if they don't know. How did they find Casa Bonita but not...
That's true. That's reopening. Have you heard?
Yeah, I know. They bought it.
Yeah, it's opening.
That's crazy. We're going to have to go.
Yeah. I heard it was pretty bad. It was pretty run down.
Yeah.
Now, well, it was. I heard it was like really, really like disgusting. The food was bad, and now they got new management, and I think they already reopened it, or they are reopening it. It's going to be like a lot better.
Have you ever seen the outside of it?
No, but I've seen pictures.
It's like it's just like this random castle-looking pink building in the strip mall off Colfax, and it's not even like a very nice area of Colfax.
It's supposed to be like, I think, an experience with inside of it.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
It's just funny to see that like off of such a main road in Colorado.
Yeah. Who knows?
Crazy.
Yeah. But I mean, if you like trail running, I suggest you try it out. I think it's a fun experience.
Casa Bonita?
Oh, well, like that too. I mean, if you want to get some fuel in, before your race, maybe after would be better so you don't puke on the trail if you do too much. But anyway, I would say give it a try.
Nice. And then, so you did a lot of really big days this summer too, along with the borough racing.
Mm-hmm.
So Zion was in April, and then you had some time off in terms of racing, I think.
Yeah.
Before you ran the Mogollon Monster 100 in September, and all of us went again. We have a friend group that people listening to this who are just like, do they go to every event together? We went. I think me, you, James, Lizzie went to every event for the last, or a lot of them
for the
last year or two.
Yeah.
So we all went down to Arizona. It's in Pine, Arizona. Actually, before I get to that, you did a lot of big mountain days this summer, a lot of 14ers.
Yeah.
You did a lot of really classic Colorado routes. I was wondering what your favorite was, in terms of training. And then I was wondering if you could talk about your training and how that led to, a really great experience, performance at Mogollon.
Yeah. I think like some of the biggest things I took away from the summer is like, I went into the summer having like a goal and like a exact like training plan. Like I want to run this mileage on this day. And I think as the summer kind of morphed, I looked more of like holistically, like as a week, what's my like goal to hit in the week. So I took it more of like a week goal versus like in a day, I need to run this amount of mileage. I'm a pretty motivated person. So like, I know I'm going to get out there and run and like do the work that I need to do. But I think like kind of having more give in your training plan is important because then you don't want to take the joy out of running. So I think having that aspect going into like future races is going to be important. And more looking at it a holistic, like what do I need to accomplish in this week? And kind of like then taking the week and taking it day by day and like maybe the weather's crappy one day and you don't run as much that day and you make it up on another day. So not being so hard on yourself on a day-to-day basis and kind of looking at it more weekly. But that being said, in the summer in Colorado, it's very easy to get long runs in on the weekends. And it's honestly my favorite time to be out here in the summertime, doing the 14ers and everything like that.
Do you have a favorite route?
I liked 4Pass. We did 4Pass this year. And Rio Ultra, which were the two classic.
Ultra.
How do you pronounce it?
Rio Ultra.
I had to Google it so I could update my Strava because I didn't know how to spell it. I think I spelled it wrong, and then James corrected me. He's like, "Amanda, you spelled it wrong." So then I had to Google it.
Ultra sponsors a loop in Colorado.
No, Ultra. I think they hire their company out here, so
they actually do. They're owned by
North Face
VF Corporation.
Yeah, which is North Face is also owned by that corporation.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, I know that they own Vans. I just find it funny that they're the same company.
Yeah, who knows? Anyway, they're in the right state to be. But I probably 4Pass. I don't know. I had a lot of fun days. I did that road leading up to Blanca Ellingwood twice this summer, which if you guys haven't done that road leading up to Blanca Ellingwood, that's quite the long approach in.
I haven't done that one yet.
It's an interesting experience, to be honest with you. My favorite probably weekend in a whole was for sure 4th of July weekend. We went down to the San Juans and did Sneffels to start off with. And then did Wetterhorn, and then we were going to do Uncompadre, but the weather was bad, so we took a reroute and went over to the Sangres and did Kit Carson and Challenger Point, which that was an experience of itself because we got stuck in a storm up there. And then we were going to do another one, but then by the end of that, we were toast. But that was a fun weekend. Yeah. So I don't know. I can't even pick one, but I think 4Pass is a classic and a fun day.
How many 14ers are you at now?
30 some. I don't remember the exact number. 35, 36. I don't know.
Nice.
I'd have to recount it. Somewhere in the 30s is all I know.
I thought you guys hit 40 this year.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm 2 less than Lizzie is all I know, or 3 less than Lizzie.
Okay.
So whatever she told you.
I'm under you guys now because I didn't do any this year.
Yeah, I'm a few less than Lizzie. So whatever she told you, that's the number I am minus a few.
I can't remember.
Okay. Then I don't know. I'm up there.
You guys have done a lot.
Yeah.
And you also this year got into rock climbing too.
Oh, yes, I did. It's fun. It's scary. You gotta trust your feet, which it took me probably the first 60 times rock climbing in the gym to actually understand that concept. And I do a route and I still sometimes don't use my feet, but I think it's a cool way to kind of enjoy the outdoors like differently, because obviously I love trail running. I love being outside, running outdoors, but rock climbing is like a whole nother avenue to explore the outdoors in a different way. So I think like the possibilities outside are endless, guys. Just step outside your door.
Do you think that rock climbing has made you into a better runner?
I think it's given me like an opportunity to be outside and take a break from running, like especially in the winter time. Like I'm really bad at like not running. So I think like being able to incorporate like a sport like rock climbing when I'm in like a downtime has been very helpful in terms of that aspect. It also like makes your legs stronger. So I guess that also helps.
You have these days now where you're on like Strava logging like skiing, running, and rock climbing within like a 12-hour span. I'm like, this is really impressive.
I like to diversify, just kind of keep the options open. But yeah, no, I guess I took up skiing this winter too. So I guess I've kind of opened myself to new sports this winter, which skiing is fun too. I don't feel it as like a cardio workout because you're taking the lift up. I mean, you can do backcountry skiing, but I don't have the stuff or am equipped to do that yet. But it does work the legs slightly. And honestly, it's just a fun experience to get outside and kind of enjoy being up high in the mountains without having to like put as much effort in too. So it's just like a fun thing to do.
And all this stuff led into like you were doing not the skiing obviously in the summer, but like the rock climbing and the big mountain days, the 14ers, long like 4-pass loop kind of days, like 28, 29 mile days. And then you took all that experience and you went into Mogollon Monster 100, which is one of the harder 100-milers in the country probably. And you were in, I don't want to put the words in your mouth because I can't remember what the stats were, but you were at like mile 70 in a really high place. Mm-hmm. Could you talk a little bit about that race and like how that went? I feel like that was, I know it didn't end the way that you wanted it to, but that is going to be definitely a foreshadow of, I think, your races coming up this year. Yeah,
I think that was probably my first race that I went into, and I'm like, I'm just going to push it. I'm going to see how fast I can run. I'm going to see like what I can do. Like that one I was more focused on time, I would say. Obviously, like there were other goals I set for myself along the way, but that one I was really like, I'm going to see what I can do in terms of time. And I was really impressed with kind of how I did. The aid station leading up to mile 73, I came in to that aid station with the first place girl and the third place girl. So it was me. I was in second coming into that one, but it was me with two other girls, and we left that aid station at the same time. So we were out on the trail, like kind of like walking with each other. It was kind of fun, honestly. And then I came into mile 73, whatever that aid station was, in second place. So I honestly had a great performance out there. I had a really fun time. We had some weird weather. I got a little delusional in terms of like, there was a hailstorm on top of, was it Black Canyon or what was that aid station called?
Black Canyon Mesa, I think.
Yeah. I left my poles there. I left my hat there. It was a weird experience. I like totally like went delusional in terms of like, because I could fill up my water bottles.
You forgot your poles there?
I forgot my poles there.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, because I never got them back and I had to pay for new poles.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, expensive mistake. But honestly, it was kind of nice not running with poles for a bit. But I wish I had them. I wanted them back, obviously, towards the end.
What's the biggest thing you learned from running Mogollon?
I think the importance to push yourself was a big lesson. So the ending of Mogollon, I guess kind of didn't clarify what happened. I dropped at mile, whatever, I think it was 74, 73, whatever that 70-some aid station was.
I can't remember the names.
I don't even remember the name, honestly.
I did a podcast on it a while ago, but I can't remember the name of every aid station of races, man.
Yeah. I was feeling fine in terms of like spirits and everything like that. My feet, again, were a big issue because we had this huge hailstorm. And I didn't really realize that my feet were like waterlogged all day until really the aid two aid stations before when I dropped, I took my shoes off and my feet were like awful. And some lady actually duct taped my feet, which looking back, if I were to change something, what I would have done is they had like nice little fires or heaters at some of the aid stations. So I would have taken time at that aid station, taken my shoes off, dried out my feet, put on new socks. And I think I even had a change of shoes at that aid station, put on the new shoes and not duct tape my feet. Cause that caused me issues later on because the tape kind of got wadded up in the bottom of my feet. And I think it caused me more like pain and increased the blisters actually. But they were taped originally because of how like waterlogged they were and the blisters I had. So I've thought about that honestly a lot. I would have changed that method going into it. And I think also, I changed socks throughout it, so I did a good job of doing that, but I didn't have change of shoes until that one aid station, which was after being in wet shoes all day, so there wasn't much you could do about that.
Yeah, I remember seeing you guys all at the finish line, and I remember they were taking off the tape, and the medics were like, "What did they do to your feet?"
Yeah, it was not the lady seemed to know what she was doing, and I trusted her. Who am I to know, I guess, at that time, what was right and what was wrong. She seemed like she knew what she was doing. And I think she even said she did that to somebody at some like popular race. I forgot what race she even said. So I was like, okay, this must work. It probably does for certain people. But I think the fact that my feet were already so wet, it didn't really stick very well. And I think that probably caused some of the issues because she was taping them because of blisters. So like that part kind of made sense. But I think in my situation, it didn't really work out very well.
Gotcha. Yeah. Mogollon was a cool race though. And you did so well up to that point at a really difficult course. I feel like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I feel like you have some unfinished business because you're a competitive person that you're coming into 2023 with. Am I wrong to assume that?
No, I would definitely will go back and finish that race.
Oh, no, I don't mean with that race. I mean unfinished business in terms of like, I feel like you were like, that was going to be, because Zion, you finished your first 100 there, but there's a difference between competency and proficiency, right?
Yes.
And I felt like at Mogollon, you were like about to have that proficient 100-miler on only your second attempt, which was really impressive. But I feel like am I wrong to assume that you have some unfinished business with the 100-mile distance now?
Yes. I for sure, I think that's my goal going into this year is kind of just like push myself more. Like I know I can finish. I gotta improve my feet issues, obviously. I think that's like kind of my biggest limiting factor right now. I've had a lot of feet issues throughout a lot of my races. So I think like kind of dialing that in. I think almost honestly this summer I need to like just get my feet wet and run with wet feet for a bit.
That sounds painful.
I think I need to put myself in that element because it's bound to happen. I've come to realize out in these races or something like in a non-ideal situation is bound to happen with your feet in terms of like some type of element. So I think kind of like just kind of pushing myself in races is kind of my goal this year. Unfortunately, I didn't get into Leadville, so that won't be my 100-miler, but I'm hoping to get into High Lonesome to kind of do some good work there.
Yeah, no, I hope you do because I'm excited to see what your Mogollon performance will eventually, like a performance like that translates to when you actually cross the finish line, because I think you can do really well.
Well, thank you.
I'm excited. You're going to have a good year. I don't know what race it's going to be at. Hopefully it's High Lonesome, like you said.
Yeah.
So that leads me to a question, some of the things you were just saying in terms of one of the core principles of journey running and my coaching business is the overcoming of adversity. Principle number 2, I have it on my website if people want to learn a little bit more. Number 1 is development of character, and number 3 is healthy living. So those are the 3 core principles that I try to lead my life by, and the Journey Running podcast and this platform and coaching and everything by. I was wondering, so you're right, like seeing water at races, having wet feet, that's something you're going to have to overcome at races. I had some shin issues when I ran the Bear 100. I limped it in for like 30 miles and it was terrible. And then I had to learn how to overcome like that issue at races. And I think other people have other issues, like whether that be like blisters or Achilles tendonitis or whatever it is. Like people have something. Like, what's your thought process and recommendation to people when it comes to overcoming adversity? How do you look at challenges?
I think challenges should be looked at opportunities, because when you're faced with a challenge, like you have the option to take on the challenge or back away. So I think like adversity and challenges should be faced more as like a positive outlook. Like, what can you make of it? What can you change and overcome with that situation? So I think like, I guess my advice for like overcoming adversity, like I'm no expert by any means, but I think my aspect is to always push yourself, put yourself in uncomfortable situations, because especially in running itself, like in longer distances, and I guess this can also translate to life, like things aren't going to go how you plan them to. So plan for the uncertainties, or plan for things that you would think wouldn't happen, because that will prepare you for maybe something that happens in a race that you didn't even think could happen. So I think like just putting yourself in uncomfortable situations can set you up for success to overcome adversity.
I like it.
Yeah.
I know we're at like just over an hour now, so I'm just going to wrap it up with a few more questions for you. One question I have for you, I brought this up before the podcast. I don't know if you were going to want to answer it.
Oh, yeah.
So you've been in a relationship now for about 6-7 months, or I don't know the number, forgive me, something like that. But long-term relationship, I was wondering, what's the biggest thing that you've learned from being in a relationship? And I was wondering if there's anything from like being in a relationship that you are able to look at and be like, this is a really useful piece of knowledge, or I learned something here that you can translate into running. Or is there something that running teaches you that you take into the relationship and you're like, running makes me really good at this part of a relationship?
I think like I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but like my boyfriend's big into rock climbing. Like I'm more big into trail running. So I think like in terms of like importance in a relationship, it's important to have your own passions, but then like through a relationship, you can develop new passions or explore new hobbies, which I kind of took into this year more in terms of rock climbing. But I think like the importance of relationship and running, like, I don't know if it like directly correlates, but I think like just have your own passions and then have the outlook to explore new passions throughout relationships and like throughout life in general. It doesn't necessarily even have to be a relationship. Like you can meet somebody on the street and be like, I like painting. You want to try it? That also sounds kind of creepy. Maybe
well,
not.
You did pottery this year too.
I did. Oh yeah, I did. I tried a lot of new things this year. Yeah, I did. I did pottery. That was kind of fun. I made some pants.
He did do a lot this year: pottery, skiing, rock climbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I think like the last 2 years of my life, I feel like I've been like I'm proud of like kind of the things that I don't know, just like changes that I made and like new things to try. Because I feel like if you don't try new things, you're probably going to fail at some of them, but you don't know what you're going to like, what you're not going to like. So if you don't try new things, then you're never really going to change as a person.
Yeah, that's really great advice.
Yeah. I don't actually know if I answered your question directly, but...
No, you did. That's exactly what I was looking for. It was kind of an open-ended, like, just where is she going to take it?
Yeah. Talked about pants.
Oh my gosh. So before we wrap up, what do I have here? I have 3 more questions. Before I ask those last few, I just want to commend you for a few things. Mm-hmm. I want to commend you for, you're like me, you're insanely stubborn.
Yes.
Which people say that, as I grew up, I feel like people said stubbornness is a bad trait, and I disagree, which is very ironic. But you're very stubborn, you're very determined, you're very competitive, and I think that you're doing more than even you originally thought you were going to do in this sport. I remember when you were going from road running to ultras, you were kind of skeptical, and I think you have far surpassed that, and I think that's translated into a lot of confidence in yourself. And I also have a lot of respect for the how open you've been to all these new experiences. I think it's really cool, everything that like you overviewed that you've changed, maybe not changed, but just like tried to, we're open to experiencing in your life.
Yeah, be open to things, people. Be open.
So that's, one of my last questions for you is, so before we sign off, do you have any topics or last pieces of advice that you'd like to give the audience?
I think like, obviously, like I said, be open to things, like try new things. I think like some of my biggest advice would be to push yourself, like I mentioned, like not like in terms of push yourself to the point of like, I think I'm going to be injured. Just like the tiny things, like say like you haven't run a half marathon yet. And like the longest distance you've run is maybe 8 miles. Like maybe try doing 9 miles, like set like little goals. Like I'm a big goal oriented person. So I think in terms of pushing yourself, like you can set mini mile markers along the way that then will lead to overall progress. So it doesn't have to be leaps and bounds like I tend to take very large leaps. You don't have to follow that. I don't honestly suggest that. There's those mini milestones along the way that are very important because they can lead up to like big success later on.
I love it. And so talking about milestones and goals, what are when Amanda runs ultra, she goes from Amanda to Amando. So what are Amando's goals for 2023?
So I heard back today, I'm not into Leadville, which is very unfortunate. None of us got in that I know of. So I put
We're
in
0 for 4.
Yep. The odds were not in our favor. I put in for High Lonesome. I'm probably like 90% confident I'm going to get in. I didn't get in last year, so you get like an extra point this year, but I'll figure out about that end of this week. The lottery closes, I think, tomorrow, but then they do the live announcement on Friday. But the one race that I do have set for next year is, I think I'm going to butcher the name, but it's called Milwaukee or
Miwok.
Milwaukee. Yeah. 100K.
No L.
Me.
Just me.
My walk.
Miwok.
Miwok. Okay. I'm going to do
Miwok 100K.
Yes, Miwok 100K. That's in California. And I came to the conclusion the other day that I thought it was a really flat course because, it's in California, sea level. And I thought like maybe like 5,000, 7,000 elevation. It's almost 12,000 elevation. You only get, I think, 15 and a half hours to finish it. So I'm going to have to fly.
That's a fast cutoff.
Yeah, I'm going to have to fly. But that's like another challenge I can push myself for.
Yeah, but you're fast enough for that.
Yeah, I think I'll be fine. But I just thought that was kind of surprising. Like,
I think you're going to place really well. Never mind. Like, I think you're going to, after your last race at Mogollon, I think you've got a lot in the tank to use in May.
Yeah. And I did finish the year with Indian Creek, so I didn't end with a DNF.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. I couldn't end the year with the DNF. I had to have something else going on.
That seemed like a beautiful course. I need to do that, too.
It was very beautiful. The weather was perfect. It was a nice day out there.
So you got Miwok, hopefully High Lonesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you're trying to shoot for in running or otherwise?
It depends on obviously if I get into High Lonesome or not. I do want to get like another race probably on there. And I would probably do, originally I was thinking if I was going to get into Leadville, I was going to do something in July, like 50 mile or something like that, 50K. But I'll probably maybe do something in June or not, just do like long days in the mountains to lead up to High Lonesome, and then something probably in September, maybe Rabbit.
Run Rabbit?
What is it called? Maybe Run Rabbit, 100 miler, or Sangre. There's the Bear, but I don't know. I probably missed the deadline for that.
Yeah. It's become a really popular race. When I signed up a few years ago, I had a few weeks, and then they let a lot of people off the wait list in. I have a feeling that race is going to become lottery soon, because now it fills up in like a day. Yeah. Crazy.
So I definitely want something else probably after High Lonesome, if I'm talking like I get into it. But that's my number one race. So I have 100K, which was my goal to at least do 100K this year because I didn't get to do one last year. And then I wanted to have like an A race 100 miler. And then I was either kind of setting myself up to maybe do another 100 miler later in the year or 100K or 50 miler. I don't know. I kind of need to lay it out still. It really depends on if I get into High Lonesome or not.
Fair enough.
These lotteries are hard.
Yeah, I know. It's just, you got to be patient, and it's tough on all of us, I think.
Yeah.
To be patient because we all want to throw our goals on the big board for the year and just be like, okay, I'm happy. Like this is it. This is what I'm shooting for this year.
Yeah.
But yeah. Lastly, not even really a question. Is there any social media platforms you would like to share to gain some more followers from this podcast while you're on?
I do have an Instagram. It's very easy. It's Amanda Klebba. So it's my first and last name. It's at Amanda Klebba. And then my cat has an Instagram, which if you go to my Instagram is linked to it. But it's Garfields _world _. You can find me on Facebook. I'm not very active on there. Although I did post like an end of year recap photo.
Garfield's got some pretty popular posts.
He got a 26,000 view on one of his reels. I'm trying to get him to be popular because then maybe if he's popular, he can pay for his own food.
That's hilarious.
Or his litter. He's a mega dumper.
I have a cat named Zep, and she doesn't pay any bills.
Yeah. He took a nice long nap today, and I'm like, I'm here working and you're napping. Can we switch jobs?
He's got free rent. So does Zep. It's
Yeah.
not fair, man. Well, thank you so much for your time, Amanda. I know we're coming up on like an hour and 15 minutes here. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there who are going to really enjoy hearing your story and enjoy I think they're going to get a lot of good tidbits of advice from you. And then I think that there's a lot of people who probably already know you, but who are going to really get to understand you and your journey a bit better from this episode. So thank you once again for being on. Really appreciate having you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Amanda. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Journey Running Podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please do make sure to like, rate, and subscribe to the show. And as always, if anybody out there is looking for a running coach or a nutrition consultant, you can reach out to myself, Stefan Schuster, at journeyrunningllc@gmail.com, or you can find out more about myself and the coaching platform Journey Running at journeyruncoaching.com. But thank you all so much for listening to this episode, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.